to get right to breaking news with Mike Lorber in Sky 5. What you got, Mike?
We are on the city's west side. There is a pursuit of an ambulance that, according to the Chicago Police Department dispatch, has been stolen from Loretto Hospital. This ambulance, according to the police dispatch, fired shots at the Chicago Police Department near Central in Jackson. It just drove the wrong way down Lake Street. It has now gone around the block, and we are north on Central here.
Where is he going with
So I want to start you off with what we heard about 5 minutes ago. CPD dispatch a 10-1. That is a call for officer in distress. They said that an ambulance was stolen from Loretto Hospital, which is on the city's far west side by Central and Jackson. They had the 10-1 call. They said shots were fired from a person in this ambulance at the police. They did not say whether or not anyone was hit. Didn't hear that. The ambulance has now gone north on Central from Loretto Hospital, went up, and I believe we are on Chicago now, east on Chicago. We've done these pursuits before, so I want to tell you how this works from our perspective. Max is our photographer. He's going to stay with the ambulance, but I can tell you from my point, there are about a half a dozen Chicago squads that are going after this ambulance. In the city of Chicago, they normally don't pursue as hard. They have to be careful, but you got to consider the situation here. There is an ambulance that was stolen from a hospital, according to dispatch, fired shots, now traveling in the wrong direction of Chicago. It is heading eastbound in westbound traffic, and you can see cars will be coming at it. We've got to warn everybody here. We've got a real high chance of a collision at the end of this. So we're now eastbound on Chicago. We are just about to approach Cicero Avenue. We've passed Laramie here, eastbound Chicago at Laramie. It is Friday afternoon rush hour. I believe most of these ambulances have limiters on there as far as how fast they can go, but obviously the person who has stolen this ambulance is driving erratically. And again, according to the police dispatch, is armed, has fired shots at the police. That's where that 10-1 called from. So we're now eastbound on Chicago Avenue, and we're about to come at Cicero. I can see a bunch of cops coming in the other direction. We're going to have a meeting right there.
We just saw the collision.
The ambulance just hit the squad.
And
so
another
the ambulance just hit a Chicago squad head on. We've got the person out. Chicago, they are tackling this person. We've got a half a dozen squads here. We are at Chicago, and we are just west of Cicero Avenue.
They got the whole department in there. Everybody
getting a 10-1 call. There are a lot of cops that have come in here. So we've got about a dozen Chicago squads here. We did see the officers come out of the vehicle that was hit. They've got the man down on the ground here in custody. Now, if you can see to the left there, Max, we've got an officer down. An officer appears to be limping away from the scene. So again, we saw that accident where the squad car got hit head on. Now we've got the Chicago Police Department going into that squad to make sure everybody is out of there okay. One person in custody, and again, according to the dispatch, there was only one person in this ambulance that stole the ambulance. And again, they had initially said there may be a patient inside. Then they said they had it confirmed that a patient was not inside.
Well, that's good.
Let's focus in on this officer now. Well, go ahead while we take all this.
Mike, I noticed the airbags did deploy on the squad. You could see the squad did engage, obviously head on, as you mentioned, with that ambulance, and then also hit that silver car. And you want to look back, if we can, back at that police officer. Don't know if that was the driver or what the circumstance was, but boy, officers jumped into action to get the person out. As they jumped out of the
Lee, I can see all of them.
And they are now taking that person away. About 6 officers strong surrounding that person. And Mike, where did this shooting happen? Did it happen at Loretto Hospital, or as the person who took the ambulance was driving away?
So according to the dispatch, shots were fired at Central in Jackson. Now, Loretto Hospital is a couple blocks south of there, located by Central, just off the Eisenhower Expressway. That's where the 10-1 dispatch was called, Central in Jackson. So again, that's right by the park there. Central's the street that goes right through the middle of that park that runs from Central to Austin that takes you into Oak Park. What we're seeing right now on the other end, it appears, of that crash where we saw a CPD squad rammed by the man who stole this ambulance, it appeared another vehicle may have been hit as well. So perhaps the Chicago Police Department treating a person who may have been struck in that second vehicle. That looked like a Prius to you, Max?
Yeah, that was a rear.
That
Yeah,
was it?
that was the second vehicle hit after the squad. It was rear-ended, and potentially I could see that
Okay.
person or anybody who might have been in there.
Okay,
might
I
have
don't
been
think that was a
officers. Yeah,
Prius.
They could
Yes.
be talking to them now. Yeah.
And it sounds like
So I'm
there
sure
was-
we're going to have a lot of ambulances. I'm sure we're going to have a lot of ambulances coming in here. I'm sure that call has already been put out. And again, just to pinpoint our location here, we're on Chicago, a couple
Man, they
blocks
got the
west
whole
of the
department
Cicero
down there.
Avenue.
They got the
When
whole
that first call
precinct.
came in, Mike, on Central and Jackson, it sounds like there was an officer in distress at that location as well, yes?
So the 10-1 call, that is the code for officer in distress. But they said shots fired at police.
Yeah.
At no time in these transactions did I ever hear that anyone was actually shot.
Good.
That being said, this will tell you why police were going so aggressively after this ambulance. First of all, it's a stolen ambulance. Second of all, I mean, look at the number of squads here as we widen
It's
out.
one of
We're
the
in a
largest
one-city block
responses
here.
I've ever seen. And we do know that there are specifics, and let's review that, Mike. Why don't we? There are specific guidelines for police officers in a typical chase. Why don't you refresh our memories as to exactly what they are guided to do in their training?
So most of the time, and we have explored this a lot through our investigations within NBC, most of the time it all depends on the severity or the danger of the situation. We have had a lot of situations that we've covered from Sky 5. Let's talk about stolen vehicles, for example. If it's just what they call a straight steal, where a vehicle is stolen, they won't pursue as hard. If somebody is
Look
armed,
at all those
they'll still
cops
use caution, but again,
for
won't
one
pursue as hard.
ambulance.
Now, it's a different situation in this situation where shots have been fired because according to the police, that person is a danger, obviously, to the community. Their goal in their mind is to stop this ambulance as quickly as they can. And that's what they had to do here. And we saw a situation, we've seen a lot of these pursuits before that don't end in crashes, but we could see this vehicle, this ambulance, heading eastbound on Chicago Avenue, and you saw a whole bunch of squads. They have a citywide frequency where they all communicate, and we saw these squads coming eastbound, and they probably thought at this point, that crash, they had to stop this vehicle any way they can because it was driving so erratically, because it could cause an accident, which it did, and according to the dispatch, had fired at the Chicago Police Department and anybody else who may have been in a very, very busy west side area of Central in Jackson.
What did
Now,
he
Mike,
think he
just
was
a few
going to
seconds
do?
ago, as you were describing the
He was getting
protocols
ready to
that
do
the
a
police
heist
use
with
in
an
various
ambulance?
situations, we saw, I believe, 2 people get out of that car that we believe is a Prius that ambulance did hit. They were walking on their own accord, so hopefully they are not severely injured. Obviously, being rear-ended can cause injuries like whiplash and even, some sort of head injury. So, and maybe they're going to be bringing somebody out of the driver's side. The person on the passenger side was able to walk out, but maybe the person on the driver's side may be a little bit more affected, where they can't maybe get out of the vehicle and walk, or maybe they're older. We don't know at this point. But clearly the response, Mike, is one I don't think I've ever seen in a chase. So many squads and so many officers there on the scene. And you can see why. I mean, you're right. Everything that you just mentioned with the shooting, mentioned with an officer
That's
at distress,
crazy.
with the erratic driving and going the wrong way on a
They don't
two-way
have
street.
this many cops in the
Clearly,
hood.
this was going to end in something that was problematic, and that's what's happened here.
And considering the amount of response, and you can
Right,
see on the
right.
streets, we're talking 4 o'clock on a Friday afternoon, a beautiful Friday afternoon when people are trying to get from place to place. The fact that more cars weren't involved as he was going down that
Yeah.
those one-way streets for so long is quite remarkable, and that all those police officers got to the scene and did their job effectively.
Do you know anything just yet? Are you hearing anything just yet, Mike, about the situation at Laredo? Was there anything there that has come out just yet from dispatch?
Not that I've heard. Again, the only thing I initially heard was outside of Loretto that an ambulance has been stolen, and that's what started all of this in the pursuit. Initially, the ambulance was stolen, and then shots were fired. We had years ago where we had an ambulance pursuit that went all the way down to I-55 and the other side of Joliet. So again, it was, they said, outside of Loretto Hospital. So I don't think there was an impact inside the hospital itself. Let's get back to this crash again that we saw, where the ambulance, the red ambulance there, was heading east on Chicago in westbound traffic. The police were coming westbound on Chicago to try to help. There was a head-on crash with that CPD squad that you could see with the immense amount of front-end damage there. And then a secondary crash where we weren't able to see really now. I don't believe that is a Prius, but that dark-colored vehicle there that has some damage as well that got rear-ended from the ambulance. So again, the other big question is the condition of the officer in that driver's side. You talked about the airbag being deployed there. We thought we saw at some point the officers get out of the vehicle. Obviously, ambulances are going to be rolling in here. They have already. They'll probably stage. We thought we saw them staging near Chicago and Cicero, but a block east of here. So now the big question here are any other people injured. And I also had heard at some point early in this pursuit, and we'd have to go back and trace our steps here, that an ambulance also hit a squad by Loretto Hospital somewhere on central north of Jackson. That was part of the early dispatch as well.
All right. Well, I know that we've got a crew going to this scene at the very least, and we'll try to get some information from the ground. And now we see two ambulances here that potentially are for whomever was injured. We did see an officer, to your point, Mike, about potential injuries. We did see an officer sitting on the curb and maybe getting some initial treatment. So potentially there's at least one police officer that was injured, even if it was a minor injury in this circumstance. And a head-on collision is no joke. I mean, I don't know how fast they were going, and I don't know if you could tell, Mike, just based on your years of experience, but any head-on collision where the airbags deploy, you're dealing with not just the collision, but also the airbags.
Appreciate you, bro.
The airbags come at you, and so potentially it could be just as simple as that. And then, of course, the people that were rear-ended. Being rear-ended is also potentially a very serious situation, and hopefully no one else was.
We saw that squad. We saw that squad come west on Cicero right at the last second, right before impact. It appeared that the squad, and this may be part of police training, just turned a tiny bit. So there wasn't a head-on, perhaps, but just a little bit. At least from our perspective, where it saw that maybe the driver's side got hit a bit more instead of a head-on. You see that squad, though. You see the impact and the impact that it took there. But the fact that the officer was able to walk or stumble out of the vehicle, at least, and is awaiting treatment. I haven't been able to listen to the fire department scanner, but I'm sure the situation is going to be what we call at least an EMS Plan 1. So an EMS Plan 1 is at least a 5-ambulance response here. A 5-ambulance response to a situation here where accident has happened and they're really not completely sure how many injuries may be involved. For example, if there's a school bus accident, there are a lot of kids in the school bus, they'll send an EMS Plan 1 just for all of this. Now, I'm hearing we have earlier video. For those of us just joining, I'm Mike Lorber on the city's west side here with Sky 5, right about 4 o'clock this afternoon. There was a dispatch by the Chicago Police Department. They issued a 10-1 dispatch. That is an officer in distress there for shots fired by Loretto Hospital, Cicero in Jackson. This was a stolen ambulance. The pursuit went north on Central all the way up to Chicago, east on Chicago, and then we saw officers coming west on Chicago. That ambulance, as you could see a few minutes ago in our video, was going the wrong way, almost hit head-on with the squad. Dozens of Chicago police officers swarming in, getting that person on the ground where an arrest was made. One police officer got out of the vehicle and was able to kind of stumble off, as we can see this crash again that we saw coming. Again, when you've got an ambulance, somebody driving erratically, and there's the crash again. You can see, as I talked about, it wasn't necessarily a head-on. I believe the police just kind of angled the car a little bit at the end, and that may be the difference between life-threatening injuries and non-life-threatening injuries. One person, again, all this is according to dispatch, only one person in the ambulance. We only saw one person get out. That person was in custody. We have to see whether or not that person is injured. Looks like a Toyota Corolla was the vehicle that's on the other side of that, and there were people who were also struck in that vehicle who may be injured as well.
Mike Lorber, great job bringing us all this information. I do want to note that in the video that we played again, I was intentionally looking at that police car that made the initial impact, the sort of semi-head-on impact. I did not see the driver's side door open. The passenger side door did open, so we will need to make sure that we try to figure out exactly the condition of that officer. Later it was open, so that officer was removed from the vehicle at some point, but they didn't get out initially, as I sort of thought they did, to chase after that suspect. The people behind the police car, the squad behind the ambulance is the one where the officers got out immediately, and they were the ones that were able to begin the takedown of the individual that was in the ambulance.
We could see that the officers were speaking to the people in the car that was rear-ended by the ambulance, and clearly saw someone walk out. It looked like it was a woman walk out of the car and walk in front of it with a white T-shirt, but we never saw what happened with the driver.
The driver on that particular one, right. All right, Mike Lorber, we know that you're going to continue to gather information for us. We have a crew on the way to the scene as well.
Wow, unbelievable.
Did engage.
Now, let's go back and see this. And for everybody who's on the mobile stream right now, that's on the vertical, we have dual streams. So we're about to stop the vertical. Go back on the horizontal right now. You don't want to miss the horizontal one. So we're stopping this one, the vertical. Hopefully you verticals have all hit subscribe so you can get notified. But we're about to go to the other stream. The other stream is already up and going on the same page. Okay, but we're about to say goodbye to the vertical. All right. Hold on. Okay. All right. There we go. All right. Now we all here. Shoo! 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 Beep, 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 beep. Now,
Be careful, but you got to
if we go through this whole
consider
event,
the situation here. There is an ambulance, and we're about
and
to
while
come
he's on the
ambulance, and again,
run, he's on this chase.
an officer appears. Chicago, they are tapped.
Look how they took this man down. They really wanted to get him. So that's telling you he took an ambulance from a place he was not supposed to take it from. And he drove this neighborhood somewhere he wasn't supposed to drive it.
Have limiters on there as far as how fast they can go, but obviously the person who has stolen this ambulance is driving erratically. And again, according to the police dispatch, is armed, has fired shots at the police. That's where that 10-1 called from. So we're now eastbound on Chicago Avenue, and we're about to come into Cicero. I can see a bunch of cops coming in the other direction. We're going to.
Now, look, this guy was coming in the same direction as a ambulance going head on.
Have a meeting right there.
That we just saw the
And
collision.
So now the ambulance is stopped.
The ambulance just hit the
And now they get behind it in case he's trying to back
squad.
up.
And
So the
another
ambulance
car.
just to the Chicago squad.
So here he comes. He jumps out of the car.
Head on. We've
And it looked like he was ready to give up.
got the person out.
He put his arm behind his back. He looked like it.
Chicago,
They finna boom, run him into the car.
they are tackling
They jump on him to get him
this
to the
person. We've got
ground.
a half a dozen
It's like 8 now.
squads here. We are at Chicago,
Here come more cops.
and we are just west of
You got more cops showing up.
Cicero Avenue. Let's
How
widen
many
out if we
cops
can,
do they
Max.
need? Here come more cops.
This is a 10-1 call. There are a lot of cops that have come in.
Look at them, dog. They like a swarm of ants.
Here,
Can y'all hear me? Can any of y'all hear me? Okay, cool. All right.
so we've got about a dozen Chicago squads here. We did see the officers come out of the vehicle that was hit. They've got the man down on the ground here in custody. Now, if you can see to the left there, Max, we've got an officer down. An officer appears to be limping.
It does not take all these cops to get one black man on the ground.
Away from the scene. So again, we saw that accident where the squad car got hit head on. Now we've got the Chicago Police Department going into that squad to make sure everybody is out of there okay. One person in custody, and again, according to the dispatch, there was only one person in this ambulance that stole the ambulance. And again, they had initially said there may be a patient inside. Then they said they had it confirmed that a patient was not inside.
Well, that's good.
Let's focus in on this officer now. Well, go ahead while we
Mike,
take all
I
this in.
noticed the airbags did deploy on the squad. You could see the squad did engage, obviously head on, as you mentioned, with that ambulance, and then also hit that silver car. And you want to look back, if we can, back at that police officer. Don't know if that was the driver or what the circumstance was, but boy, officers jumped into action to get the person out as they jumped out of the ambulance, and they are now taking that person away. About 6 officers strong surrounding.
Look, they splitting his legs open, everything.
That person. And Mike, where did this shooting happen? Did it happen at Loretto Hospital, or as the person who took the ambulance was driving away?
So according to the dispatch, shots were fired at Central in Jackson. Now, Loretto Hospital is a couple blocks south of there, located by Central, just off the Eisenhower Expressway. That's where the 10-1 dispatch was called, Central in Jackson. So again, that's right by the park there. Central's the street that goes right through the middle of that park that runs from Central to Austin that takes you into Oak Park. What we're seeing right now on the other end, it appears, of that crash where we saw a CPD squad rammed by the man who stole this ambulance, it appeared another vehicle may have been hit as well. So perhaps the Chicago Police Department treating a person who may have been struck in that second vehicle. That looked like a Prius to you, Max?
Yeah, that was a rear.
That
Yeah,
was hit?
that was the second vehicle hit after the squad. It was rear-ended, and
This is nuts. This man is finna do so much time. I don't even think they've invented the time, enough time for him. Oh, absolutely. What you want to do is make sure that you understand in this process what people see and what they understand are two different uh, entities all together. You know, you're looking at people who are hands-on when it comes to making these type of decisions about how to deal with the process of creation. You know, like they're creating a scene where there's like 4 or 5 different departments together, right? So now you have all these departments together working. And now that they're all working together, who's going to get credit for the arrest is huge. So that's why they're all in it together. Police, the biggest gang in the world, of course. But as you can see, they ganged up on him, decided who was going to take credit for him, picked him up, carried him to the car like he was a sack of laundry or something. Well, everything is completely different from the next. When the police do a chase like this, when they say this is a 10-1 call, this is what normally happens in a 10-1 call. Like if a police officer got ran down or something, it's like they have the same mentality as a gang, except for they're licensed by the government. Well, the city or the state, actually. So the city, your taxes pay these people to protect and serve your community. But they look out for their own more than anything else in the world. This is what their main focus truly is all about, looking out for their own.
Potential, I could see that person.
One call, that is
Look at all the cops that are out there.
the code for officer in distress, but they said
Yeah, well, if you look at all of this and how it's laid out, absolutely.
shots fired.
They said, oh, we had shots fired. We had shots fired at the event. Now you got someone on the run. Now everybody's going to get a 10-1 call. That's all hands on deck. Anybody around. Why? Because you don't know where this ambulance is going. And this is going to areas where it could get to where people they care about could get hit and hurt. They can't have that in these areas.
No time in these transactions did I ever hear that anyone was actually shot.
Good.
That look at the number of squads here as we widen out.
Now, don't you think this is overkill? Look how many departments, look how many police officers came for this one ambulance. That is stopped already. That's insane. 34 cars, 17 squads show up for one ambulance? Why was there such a show of force in this community? And you wonder why they say, why do poor people steal in their areas and their neighborhoods? Because they don't know how well protected these neighborhoods are. Do you think they just have the regular police out here where I live? No, they have the armed forces, a whole armed forces unit that come out, and they deal with like riots and things of that, and they're to protect this community where there's lawyers, judges, doctors, all in this Lake Forest, Lake County, Highwood, Highland Park, Deerfield, all of this area, because that's like rich folk area, and they all seem to live in the same community. They want to make sure they're protected. So the place where all these 17 cars would be needed, these 17 units rather, they're not going to go. They're not going to go to O Block. They wouldn't send all of these cars over to O Block. They didn't want to do it. No, this is the Wild Hunters. Exactly. Can the South Side get that kind of love and protection? Mm-hmm. So it lets you know you're living in two realities. Y'all might live in the same city, but whole entirely different worlds. Your police different, you're governed different. Everything about it is different. This is a prime example of it. This fool who stole his ambulance did not deserve 17 forces. 17 different units to show up. 34 cars. Yeah, I bet it on the Knicks. Did you see my video? Well, I know they didn't send out any notifications on it, but yeah, it went out yesterday. Once again, I gave credit to the Knicks and how Jalen Brunson was moving the ball around, and 32-10. I watched the game. Did good. Now tonight is Pistons and Bulls. Oh yeah. So anyway, man, I appreciate y'all, the time, everything, everybody who came over to show support. Appreciate y'all. And we are out. Thanking you. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Go to my Patreon, which is Carcino for Life. I have something very interesting for you today.